Hey coin collectors, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. We're going to take a look at the 1981 US quarter. We've got the Denver version right here, the San Francisco version up there with the S. We've got another coin right here, and that is the Philadelphia version. So it's really hard to tell because the P is a mess. And we're going to talk about the messy or the filled P's. We're going to talk about the filled D's. We're going to talk about the Type 1 and Type 2 San Francisco Mint coins. And then we're going to bring this one in when we talk about the Type 1 and Type 2. And that is the 1981 Susan B. Anthony coins. So let's get started. All right, here's that Denver Mint coin, and you can see this is just a beautiful coin. It's from a uncirculated mint set. You can see a little rainbow kind of rounder around the D here, and that's because the D mint mark got hit so hard that it put a little bit of a dent in the coin. And if you tip the coin just right, you can see that dent there, and you can also see that the D is pretty full. So if you see anything online that says filled D or filled P for 1981, almost all of them are filled. Don't get some old coin on eBay for $1,000 because the P got filled or the D got filled. Also, don't go too weird with this "In God We Trust." Sometimes that little extra there gets worn down. See that on the G? And it looks like it says "In COD We Trust." That's just because they didn't make these coins very well. It's not an error coin. It's not worth anything if it says "In COD We Trust," unless it's in at least this good shape and maybe even better. Liberty at the top, "In God We Trust" under Washington's chin. Washington facing to the left with the D behind him, and then 1981 down here at the bottom. And if you want to know who engraved this coin, you tip it up a little bit. You see right there above my pointer is a J and an F, and that's for John Flanagan, the designer engraver of this coin. We tip it up, and it's, of course, a copper nickel clad copper, what they call a clad coin. If we get it over onto the back, we see that it says United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, $quarter here at the bottom, and this is just a beautiful eagle. Go up to the eagle's head, and you see that there's a little cowlick coming off the back. We would like, for a really good coin, we'd want a little bit better beak line than that and a little bit better eye, but this is pretty good. And then we want to see feathers all the way down, even on the legs, and on that left leg, the left side, you can see that. On the right side, not so much, but still holding the arrows, the little tail coming below the arrows, the ribbon that binds the arrows right here in the middle, and then down at the bottom, we look at this olive branch that goes from one side to the other. This is just a really fine coin, probably a mint state 65 or so, and just really sweet with a little bit of toning on it. But a mint state 65 won't go much over $20. So this coin is pretty good. And then when we look down here for the scratches, we might say, okay, maybe not even a mint state 65. We get below a mint state 65, it's certainly not worth getting it graded, and it may only be worth $10 to $15. So let's just keep it and use it for our videos. At Denver, they made $578 million. The auction record for one of these is $375 for Mint State 67, but since then, they found a Mint State 67 plus, and PCGS grades it at $1,150. They found 3 of them. At the Philadelphia Mint, and that's the one you're going to get with all these filled P mint marks on it. And you can see this one really got dented. This one hits so hard that you can see the dent by eye without even magnifying. But let's magnify it and we see how big a dent that is. And you can also see that there's no way of telling really that that's a P unless you know that they only made them at the Denver, the Philly, and the San Francisco Mint. So it pretty much has to be a P with that on there. And then look at the G on God here. Not very good there. Easily could get worn down. At the Philadelphia Mint, they made $602 million. The auction record is $700. They've since found a Mint State 67 plus. They found 3 of them, and those are worth $4,000. Now, why a Philadelphia 67 plus is worth $4,000 and a Denver 67 plus is worth $1,150, it's hard telling. It's just who needs to fill their collection at a certain time and certain place, and who's willing to spend the money. So these coins, if you get the best of the D or the best of the P, they're both going to be Mint State 67, but there's about a $3,000 difference between them. Now, they also made this coin at the San Francisco Mint, and you can see that this is just a beautiful coin. Comes from a proof set, though, if it's at San Francisco. And this coin is a deep, deep, deep cameo. Really a sweet one. Let's go on and see the back of it. Of course, no silvers were made in 1981, so it's always going to be clad if it's a quarter from 1981, unless something really weird happens. You look at the back of it and you see maybe the back looks even better than the front. All the same kind of stuff. On the S-Mint coins, not always going to have all the feathers on the legs, but you definitely have a really good eye there. Not the greatest beak mark, but again, that's going to be still going to be close to a proof 70 for the San Francisco Mint coin. A proof 70 goes for about $38 in a type 1. What are there? There's a type 1 and there's a type 2. What is a type 1? Well, the type 1, and we can see how this S looks here, pretty much a blurry or a filled S. We'll show you one of the type 2 S's from the PCGS website right now. So here's the type 1S from the PCGS website, and you can see it is kind of a blur there. Essentially a filled S. And then if we go up, we can see that at the PCGS website they have the type 2. We go over here and obviously you can see how clear that is. You can also see that it looks like a little upside down, almost like the S has a bigger top on it than it does a bottom, but it's clear that that's it, that S goes right through, and it's quite different if you see them. This one can't really be mistaken for this one or the one that we have. So the type 1 proof 70 worth $38. The type 2 proof 70 worth $200. So if you're going to find these, they're probably a 10 to 1 or so, or maybe even less than that. They made 4 million at San Francisco of proof coins, and probably somewhere around 200 to 400,000 they think. So 5 to 10% of them were the type 2. So look for those out there. Now, why did I show you the Susan B. Anthony and the S on there? Well, the Susan B. Anthony was the first one that they really defined well the type 1 and type 2s on. And so, and that came out in 1981. It came out in 79, 80, 81, and 99. So the Susan B. is one that's really famous for that type 1 and type 2S, and that's the one where you're going to get the huge bucks for the difference. In the quarter, it's not a huge difference, but it is a difference between $200 and $38. Now, there's also, we're going to show you an online one where they stamped a quarter onto a copper penny planchet. And that lists on eBay for $8,950. Let's take a look. Here's the one on eBay on a 1-cent planchet. And you can see this is NGC here, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. And they graded this at a Mint State 66 red brown. The red brown is a penny grading. So you have brown, red brown, and red. Those are your quality differences. And when we look at this one, we see that they graded this as a red brown because it's a quarter on a penny planchet. And so they actually graded it as if it was a penny. Let's take a look at, oh my God. So, and you can see why they would want thousands of dollars for this, because it is just beautiful the way that it comes out. In fact, maybe they should have put the quarters on a copper planchet in the first place to get this kind of coloring. And there's another quarter on that you can find online at Sullivan Numismatics where they stamped a 1981 quarter on a nickel planchet. And of course, that one is worth a lot of money. Sullivan Numismatics has it for about $325. So, all right. So if it's a filled D or a filled P, no real value to it. If it's a type S, If it's a Type S with this Type 1 on it, no big value to it. The most is probably going to be $38 if it's just perfect. But if you get the Type 2, it might be better. And if you find one on a different planchet, one of the things is you'll know because it'll be so much lighter. Coin on eBay that they struck on a 1 cent planchet weighs 3.1 grams instead of 5.67. All right, that's all I have today from DC Coin World International Coin Channel. We'd love to have you subscribe to our channel and leave any comments you have in the comment section.